नमस्कार क्रिकबज़ लाइव में आपका स्वागत है. Sorry. Hello and welcome to Cricbuzz Live, changing language settings, kicking in 3, 2, 1 and go. I'm Gaurav Kapur, with me Joy Bhattacharya and Simon Doull. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon, GK. You're looking more gangster-like every time I see you with that beard and now sort of fully in black.
He's hanging around in the bad company. Downstairs, bad company. Come back in the Hindi show. Yeah, in the Hindi show.
Look at the bad influences I have in my life. Partha Patel, Virender Sehwag, Ashish Nehra. It's a rough neighborhood, man.
Be a good boy and come right back here where you belong.
This
will
where,
do nothing to your grades.
Here the front benchers all here. Joy, Simon, Harsha, Dinesh Karthik. These are the people who have never got into trouble. Yeah?
Yeah.
You know something? Actually, it's great because if Harsha and DK were here, I couldn't have landed this joke because they are actually good boys who've never got into any trouble. But I'll tell you, the two teams playing today who are in a whole lot of trouble. Yes, sir, they are. And they both have a chance to turn it around today. And I tell you what, if they don't manage to turn it around today, then they might as well just turn around and go home.
Get the flight. The flight. And still got other teams want points off them, so they can't exactly go home straight away. But yeah, the two sides that have had similar starts to the tournament, they both look really poor. So someone will at least get the W today, get a couple of points beside their name.
You know what I loved was, he's like, I thought he'd say, no, you can't go because you want to stay and fight. He's like, no, you can't leave because other teams want points off. You're going to stay and get humiliated for another 6 weeks for someone else.
For someone else's benefit.
Do a good deed, man. Do a good deed. So Australia and Sri Lanka, obviously both of them with no wins and no points. And you see that there's 9 games, right? I know there's the same number of teams as the IPL. You tend to get a little confused and think, oh, you have a lot more time as a fan, not the teams, of course. But they only have 9 games. 3 means 33.3333333333333333. I can't technically stop, right?
You can't technically stop. You can't technically.
Hey, it's 2 o'clock. We'll see you at the mid-game show. So 1/3 of your campaign done without a win. That is bye-bye. Pretty much.
Not bye-bye. Not bye-bye. I mean, we were just discussing that. Who's Australia lost to? See, it's a lot of who you've lost to.
Okay.
So Australia has lost to South Africa, who's a gun side this year. They've lost to England. Okay. They've lost to India.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens? You've lost 2 of the matches which you thought are close matches.
Okay.
But still Australia will back themselves to beat Afghanistan, to beat Bangladesh, to beat Sri Lanka, to beat a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
So the games that they had, looking at the start, they wouldn't have said, we are sure to have a 2-0 start.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Whereas for England, New Zealand, they probably thought they had a slightly better chance and they never thought they'd lose against Afghanistan. So those losses actually are more hurtful than I think this.
Yeah, when you were saying that easier games coming up, I said Bangladesh, Netherlands maybe, but Afghanistan? After last night? Geez, you were there.
Yeah, it was cracking. It was, I didn't see it coming. Same surface or same ground. South Africa 428. India chased down 273 or 4 in 35 overs. At the Arun Jaitley. So you just look at it and you think, England should have been good enough to get that number, but it was turning a little more than we saw in those 2 games. Played into Afghanistan's hands, and they were brilliant. That opening partnership with the bat, first and foremost, 114 inside the 13th over, 14th over, was incredible. And they put England under pressure right from the start. And that's how they want to play their cricket. The problem is they've never been able to get enough runs against the good sides to bring their bowlers into play. And once Mujib and Rashid, I thought Nabi was the unsung hero. He actually really tied them up through that middle. He bowled beautifully. Although Rashid got key wickets and Mujib got key wickets, I thought Nabi was just as good. But it was a brilliant performance and so passionate, and you sort of see what they can bring when they do that sort of thing. I thought it was terrific.
I love Nabi. Whenever in a shorter format, the white ball format, you get a classic test dismissal. For a pace bowler, perhaps a stop of off. And for a right arm off spinner, it's always the left-hander edge first slip. Love those,
No, absolutely. And, there was a tweet going around, which I think it's true. In fact, I had to look at it. He's defeated, Nabi's been a part of that Afghan journey for 43 different countries. 43 different countries.
In one-day internationals, he's beaten 43 different countries.
Because
Quite amazing.
Because he started his associate career, long before. So he's been playing country after country after country. So after that, beating England, a World Cup champion, made me feel so good. But he's around for that entire journey, and I completely concur with him. Why was Rashid not so effective so far? Because they never had the runs for anyone to need to attack Rashid.
Yeah.
Now you have that extra 40-50 runs. Hey, I've got to get runs of him. I can't play him out.
Yeah.
The moment you start attacking him, Rashid's a different bowler.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Nabi's 43 opponents that he's just caught up with his age.
Oh, yes.
Only just. Yesterday. That was his 43rd victory, 43rd country. I reckon he's about 43. I think it says 37, 38. I reckon he's about 43. He's got 15 kids. He's going good. He's loving it.
Yeah. But when that's the thing, when you go to the northwest frontier, you go from Punjab and then you keep going westward through Pakistan and Afghanistan, you have to take their on-paper age and add anything between 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
In Shahid Afridi's case, 12 to 15 years. But you have to keep adding a few years, right? It's one of those little pinch of salt kind of, what's my age? A little pinch of salt?
Yeah, absolutely. And the last time the Afghans were so dominant in Delhi was after the Third Battle of Panipat in 1720s.
They've gone historical on us again, and we have you can't do a joke because we don't know history, right? So therefore we can't. So he does that. This is what the Bengalis do. They take a few years off your mental age. That's what they do to the rest of us, Northwest frontier folk. All right, well, today it is our neighbours in the south. That's Sri Lanka, who's going to be playing Australia. What's happened in the toss? Anyone know? You have your phone on all the time.
Yes,
Joy.
I do.
So just tell us.
Go on. Sri Lanka opt to bat first.
All right, so Sri Lanka's won the toss.
Bat first.
And they opt to bat. They, of course, are suffering, and that's his big suffering. How big is it for them if, since Dazen Shanaka is ruled out? 3 weeks, yes.
Yeah, a couple of things there. I think opting to bat, they're not expecting dew. They've got a spin attack, which they want to use later on, so they want to put runs on the board and maybe think that will be a little more difficult. I just thought they're probably doing that because of what South Africa did the other night, but I thought South Africa just bowled a lot better than Australia. So this is a very good opportunity for Australia, to me, to get some early wickets and make some early inroads. No Dasun Shanaka, he's had a pretty ordinary time of it lately anyway, with bat, and hasn't bowled a lot. So from that point of view, that might sound a bit harsh, but I don't know that he's a massive loss for them right now because he's not in great form.
Okay.
So a change at this stage after 2 losses, a change might be good for them. A new voice, a different start, something different. It might actually be good for them.
Okay, so there you go. This is what has happened to them ever since, I think, September.
13 consecutive wins. And after that, this is what happens.
Yeah, that's right. That's their record, right? It's a record for them. I think it's the second highest streak after Australia's famous 21 game. And then after that, once we look at that, you see what happened to them. You see what happened to them in the final. We all know because it became shorter than a T20 game, right? When they were playing the 50-over final against Asia Cup. They're completely skittled and destroyed there. But then let's have a look at the team that they're going with now. Let's have a look at the changes that they've had to do. There is no Patirana. So Lahiru Kumara's in the squad, which is good. And Chamika Karunaratne, who of course has been drafted in place of Dasun Shanaka.
Clear like for like. Karunaratne is a pure like for like. Plays that probably is I feel a slightly better bowler at this stage. Was a better bowler in his heyday than Shanaka was. Shanaka's probably a bit better with the bat, but Lahiru, can hit it as well. Karunaratne can hit it as well. Interesting character, Again, Sri Lankan royalty, the right college Royal, he's from Royals, he's the right college, great prospect, started off. In 21, he was regarded as a star. In 22, KKR drafted him. Of course, KKR does not always make the best decisions in history, but KKR drafted him. But then after that, in the last year or so, disciplinary issues just gone off the boil a bit and just left. It was more disciplinary than actual cricket performances that's really forced him out.
Ah, that's interesting. Let's have a look at that team again and see. Of course, they've gone. Captaincy has been taken over there by Kushal Mendis, who's been in great form. There's Pathum Nisanka at the top with Kushal Pereira. Then Kushal Mendis, the captain and wicket keeper. And then there's Samara Vikrama. Jesus, what is his autograph like? Charit Asalanka, Dhananjay De Silva, then Chamika Karunaratne, Dunit Villalage, who we saw a lot of in the Asia Cup, made his name there. Then there's Mahesh Tikshana, there's spinner Lahiru Kumara, and Madhu Shankar. Looks like a solid team, Dooley, in terms of options.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think Kumara's, I think he's a good bowler, but he's a little bit wayward. He's a really strongly built character, Lahiru Kumara. And when he gets it right, it just seems to be it's a rhythm thing for him.
Yeah.
When the rhythm is right and he's not trying too hard, he actually gets it through really nicely. He's got good pace, good bounce. That will come later on in the piece. I've been impressed with Madhushankar. He can swing the ball. He's at a decent clip. Looks like a good bowler. Their issue has been then their extras. 46 wides.
That's why when you were saying wayward, I was like, he can't be wayward today. Nobody can be wayward today.
But the bowler he's replacing was probably the most wayward.
I would say, look, I don't know the numbers and we'll get told at some stage, but I would say Patirana's probably bowled half of those, to be honest. I mean, he's a young kid making his way, and when the radar's wrong, the radar's wrong. So he's out for a couple of games as well with a little niggle. So it's probably a more sort of balanced looking attack today for Sri Lanka, but they're going to have to get runs on the board. That's going to be their key. Batting first, they've got to get runs on the board, much like Afghanistan, and give their bowlers something to work with later on.
They've, of course, got their captain who's been in great form, right? He has been in rip-roaring form. The runs just keep coming. It's like the Midas touch.
No, absolutely.
Is it Midas or Midas?
I think it's
Midas.
Midas.
Yeah.
Depends on which part of the world you're in. Yeah. We're talking English now, so it's
Potato.
Look, it depends on which studio you are.
That's right. English means you do this. But there you go. Everything is turning into gold when it hits his bat.
Yeah, absolutely. And the runs he scored, even in a practice match, I think he's got a big one in the practice match as well.
Yeah.
He's just been in sensational form. And the thing is that they actually have another ticking time bomb on the other side, which is Kushal Perera. And he's not yet got going. If Kushal Perera gets going, God help attacks. Yeah. So I think what they are saying is that the only way we can win matches in this part of the world and against a team like Australia is put 300, 350. Australia has crumbled before, then hope to get a few early wickets and see what happens. Because I don't think they have the bowling attack to restrict people or take early wickets. So they reckon their batting is their strong point, especially if they get going. Going back to Kumararatne, the other interesting thing is how much Indian cricket now influences the rest of cricket.
Yeah.
His hero is Hardik Pandya.
Karunaratne's?
Yeah. So he goes and he meets another Indian cricketer and says, you know what, the only person I want to meet is Hardik Pandya. And I want his bat because, he hits it really hard. So this guy said, no problems, I'll introduce you. And the bat that he's got, his favorite bat is Hardik Pandya's bat.
Wow.
So it's quite crazy. I mean, because the IPL and all is so big, when these guys come into cricket, by the time he comes in, he's just 3 years younger to Hardik Pandya. But his hero is Hardik.
Let's talk about Kushal Mendes because he's been in great form. Simon, you've seen enough international cricket to know sometimes captaincy can liberate you, make you more powerful, get even more runs, carry on the form. Sometimes it can weigh you down.
Yeah, and I hope it's the first instance in this case because the last thing you want to do with Kushal Mendes is take away his form.
Break him.
And break him.
He's the one guy in form.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, it's probably an easy decision because, he reads the game quite well. I think he's got good captaincy skills. And as a lieutenant, he's been pretty good and he's been there or thereabouts. But the last thing you want him to do is change his game plan or change anything from the way he's batting. His role as a captain purely and simply will come in the field. He just needs to go out there and bat exactly how he's been batting. And if he gets runs, then that's great for his team. And he'll be fine with it. But his role will come with the ball and he'll need help. You talk about Kusal Perera. I want to say this is one of the platforms, probably the only platform in the world I can say it on. But I saw Perera and Tikshana in the first game come back. They both looked very unfit. And having come back from injuries, Tikshana in particular, he just didn't look fit. And I was really surprised when you're coming into a World Cup. For me, that's sort of unacceptable and non-negotiables. You want to come back, you want to be in good shape, you want to be ready to go. Just didn't look like that. So hopefully the game time, the first couple of games, has allowed those guys to just get a little bit more into it and spending time with the team as well. And with a bit of luck, they will be better today.
They got to get the runs because, as Joy said, they're bowling just like yesterday when Afghanistan got the runs. Their bowling also kind of came to the party. That's what Sri Lanka would want from their batters today. We're just talking about captaincy liberating and captaincy weighing down. We've seen that enough, haven't we, with world cricket?
And even seeing him, that's what I was wondering. That I just hope that given what they have done this year, that Shanaka just stays back in the dressing room. Look, he doesn't need to do very much.
Yeah.
He just needs to be in the dressing room at the end of games. You've had somebody who's done really well for you. They've overperformed over the last year. It's safe to say they've definitely overperformed. The guy who's there, hey, have him around because it's not going to hurt you. These dressing rooms are big enough.
Yeah.
Just be there, be with the team, talk to them afterwards. I think it's important because this is a young side who's just fought their way back in the last year from being in a terrible place into 2021. They were in a very bad place, Toxic team atmosphere, players getting disciplinary issues, players being sent back. Suddenly they've got pride together. They've had a smashing qualifier tournament. They've just got things together. Now this Asia Cup final and this year just pushed them back a bit. They've got to make sure that now they recover from this.
I think Williamson's a great example too. He's going to hang around the New Zealand team for the next 3 weeks. He won't play at all, but he's another one. He's a sounding board for them. So it's a good thing, I think, that Shanaka stays around and still has his input without being overbearing.
To the point, to Joy's point of dressing rooms being big enough. Listen, Lucknow is an IPL team. That's 25 players. 25 support staff. If you can fit all of them, you can definitely fit one extra person who's supposed to be going back home. All right, let's have a look at the Australia team. No surprise there because that's how they think. They had wanted Stoinis back, so they got him back in the last game. So they are going to be sticking with him. Alex Carey, there was something that Bharat Sundaresan had tweeted yesterday because we know that he kind of follows the Australia team, the journalist, stays in Australia. He had said yesterday that he saw George Bailey, as well as I think the captain, having a chat with Alex Carey after the net. So it's good to see that. It's good to see that, all right, listen, you're probably not going to play the next few games. Joss Inglis ahead of you, but let's just put an arm around the shoulder.
You just want open lines of communication. And these things are never easy. And you come to a tournament with a set plan. After one game, I don't know how your plan changes. So that's the one issue I've got with it. Whether he's good enough or as good as Inglis or not, that's an argument that anyone can have. But what I find is if you come into a World Cup and you're unsure of your 11, and I think Australia were unsure of their 11 and their best side, you're walking into dangerous territory. I think England were unsure of their best side when they came into this World Cup. And no surprise that both those sides find themselves a little bit struggling after 2 games.
Yeah.
So you have to be assured of what you are doing and who owns places in your team. You can't tell me that after 1 game, Alex Carey's performance was bad enough for him to be left out and Inglis to be brought in. 3-4 games into the tournament, I get it. After 1, I don't. But you do need clear lines of communication.
Yeah, it's a little surprising because you don't see teams like Australia, a team that's won the World Cup 5 times, you don't see them making a change after 1 game. And I'm so glad that Ajay Jadeja is with the Afghanistan team and not here, because if he had seen this on air, Australia changing after 1 game, he'd have blown the roof off this.
I saw him yesterday, just quickly. Yeah. He's looking very slim. I said, what's happened? He says, I haven't been at Cricbuzz eating. He says,
not ordering.
He says, I've been saved from GK. I was like, fair enough.
I think those youngsters make him run around and we just make him sit, put his feet up and eat some more food. So, brother, spend some time there and then come back to us. Come back to us. But yeah, Australia, another thing you're seeing, uncharacteristic from Australia, Joy, is the number of catches they're dropping. Butterball turkey. What's going on?
No, I'm just happy that it's Afghanistan. I mean, look at that percentage, 66.7%.
Yeah. Have you put the show on again?
Yes, no.
You've put the show on.
No, I didn't put the show on again. Somebody called and it came through. I have no idea how.
Is that Harsha Bhogle? It sounds like Harsha's voice.
Anyway,
No, that can't be Harsha.
Speaking of catching, you just caught out.
Yeah.
Come.
66.7%. I mean, that's ridiculous. 7 catches they dropped. Sorry.
Please. Okay. Sorry. I needed a minute. Sorry. How does
Gaurav,
this
you just come back
only
today.
to join?
You just come back today.
If it was me calling you, I'd understand. How do you get calls when I'm here?
My phone is on silent also. So how did it go from silent to speaker to... I don't even... I mean, look... Gaurav.
Only on
Gaurav.
Only on Cricbuzz.
It has got answered and gone on speaker and somebody's talking. I love it. Okay.
If you want to really know, they were trying to sell me real estate. Yeah.
Well, I guess they saw some high rollers and heavy hitters here, live on air.
Maybe
It was like,
in the studio with him, maybe you can buy a
it was like, let's
Anyway,
have some
back
real
to the
estate.
catching.
That's right.
Yeah, back to the catch. Yeah. Okay, you, all yours.
Come on.
Yeah, but okay, we'll bring it back. Let's pretend the last 1.5 minutes didn't happen, but it did. There it is, the number of drop catches. Where would you would start looking for Australia somewhere at the top, and then you'd come all the way down and see, what are you doing here?
See, I think firstly the numbers, this 66, 86, these sound more important than they are because you're just 2 matches of data to go with.
Okay.
But the fact of it is the last match...
No, wait, this is, just bring that back again. This is, I think, older than that. This is this year, this whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's a serious percentage.
Yeah.
Then that's a serious percentage because you're actually dropping exactly to 1/3 of all your catches.
There you go.
1 out of every 3 catches goes down, which is a ridiculous percentage.
Yeah.
This time, they dropped 7 catches the last match. 7 catches they dropped the last match. So it's something, 2 things. One is that, Nasir Hussain was going on about the sky being a different color, but whatever that was, that doesn't seem to indicate the kind of results you have.
No.
I have one point to make, and I genuinely believe that what's happened in Australia is the guys who are good at this format, the ODI format, are guys who have been around for a long time. I feel all the younger cricketers that they have, they're all really good cricketers, but they're all really good, want to be T20 cricketers or Test cricketers. They don't want to be ODI cricketers. And a lot of them haven't played, they don't have that same form in ODI cricket as they do in T20s anymore.
Yep.
So you have very few, what you call thoroughbred ODI cricketers. Steve Smith, for example. I think Labuschagne has the capacity to be one. But a lot of the other batters are not really ODI batsmen, constructing an innings kind of batsmen.
Can I add to that their captain, Pat Cummins, has captained only half a dozen ODIs in his career?
He hasn't played too many either.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't played a lot himself. As I say, they just came into this tournament. And I don't look, with all due respect, I think Pat Cummins is probably one of the best test bowlers in world cricket. I've never thought he was a terrific white ball bowler, but easily one of the best test match bowlers in the world because he just hits that line, hits that length. And therefore, I think his captaincy suffers as well. I don't think he should be leading this side. I think this is Steve Smith's time.
Yeah.
But Australia have put themselves in a position where they said Steve Smith will not be captain again after what happened with Sandpaper Gate and all of those things. This really should be, when we talk about the players that will play their last World Cup, he's one of them. It should be his time to lead Australia.
Yeah.
Whether it be to a title or not is insignificant. It doesn't matter. But this should be his time to be leading that Australian side. He's a tough, gritty competitor. He will get the best out of most of the guys in that unit. And I don't think Pat Cummins is the right man for the job. They might go on a run here and win 4 or 5 in a row, and it might be all rosy for a little while. But I just think that maybe Sean Abbott is probably a better option in this format of the game at the moment, and that's where they're at.
I've said this before, and I feel really that in some level, Pat Cummins is a reluctant leader at this point in time because he's too good a cricketer and too nice a guy to realize that he's not exactly a perfect fit for this. Exactly what he's saying. Yeah. This is not his format.
Yeah.
This is not his format. So
and it's not his fault either, is it?
Yeah.
I don't blame the guy at all. It's
so
not
they're
his
saying
fault.
you need a good captain. Yeah. You look down that list. If you take away Steve Smith, who do you give it to?
Yeah.
And why not give it to Steve Smith? They've used him as replacement captain in the middle. So obviously I don't know whether it is an ideological embargo that's on him because the other embargo is off. If they let him lead as a replacement captain, means he's good enough to be that captain. He has the experience. He can do it. I don't know. It just seems a little. And again, nothing against Pat Cummins and nothing against. The fact that he's captained 6 ODIs is not his fault. It's the fact that he's been injured and he's not played that format too much. But for the powers that be to go with that in such an important tournament says something. And this is what Pat Cummins said. And I found it very interesting. And you're talking about like nice guy, right? He says, no, still haven't really quite put my finger on what playing in the Australian way means. And I've been playing for a long time. No doubt we haven't been up to the standard that we like to hold. We've been off the mark and have been outplayed in both games.
So I just want to tell you one thing. I know Pat a little bit. We spent a season with him in KKR. And one of the things is he's a very thoughtful, perceptive guy. So one of the things he not rebels against, not overtly, sometimes overtly as well, is this, this is the Australian way. It's all about being, brash and the Australian flag and that's all it counts. So he's a much more nuanced, thoughtful person.
Okay.
So when people try and shove this Australian way and do it like a proper Aussie, and he says, wait, we just want to do it the right way. So he's a very different kind of character. So if you notice, he cops a lot of from the old cricketers were saying, he's not tough enough to be an Australian captain, he's not tough enough to do this. Well, he's a different cricketer. He's built in a different way. He's a different breed. And that's why perhaps what happened with Langer happened, because he's not the kind of person to take that. And therefore, when he says that this Australian way, so he's also looking at it in the inverted commas and says, what do you mean? You mean because I think the way I do, I don't feel for Australia the same way you do? Yeah. Well, that's not true.
He was brought in to sort of get the reputation of Australian cricket back. They had gone completely down, the backwards, the sandpaper gate, all of those things. They needed a face of Australian cricket. They needed a guy who was clean, had no baggage, no bad history, nothing. And he is that guy. And he just happens to be an absolute jet and a gun at Test match cricket as well, which
really helps.
makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
It just may be that the white ball format is not his best. So they've gone with him across the board in the hope that he will just save Australian cricket from any further embarrassment. I think was probably the sort of the way they went. But now is the time you've got to be winning tournaments again. And after Aaron Finch left in last year's T20 World Cup, they needed someone else to take over the shorter formats as well.
Well, the embarrassment may not be happening with the extracurricular activities, but now they've got to get it to the syllabus as well, which is to actually, win proper cricket games. All right, and today it is tough for them. They've both Sri Lanka and Australia have lost 2 games each coming into this game, so they have to put a win against theirs. Sri Lanka has won the toss and chosen to bat first. And again, for Australia, in terms of the bowling, their big surprise last game was that Glenn Maxwell turned out to be their most effective bowler, like Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah, he's been bowling well this time. And in fact, that was one worry that everyone had, that there was an absence of a big second spinner on the board. So you have one spinner out there who's doing really well for you, Glenn Maxwell, who's your second spinner.
Yeah.
And Zampa has just not really had the kind of tournament they still expect him to have. I mean, there's a long way to go as yet. And, the Chennai pitch was not the Chennai pitch that we normally see as a Chennai pitch. Yeah. But still, Zampa was their main bowler and he hasn't yet fired. And I'll be very interested in knowing, because look, they can't really substitute anyone for a spinner right now, unless somebody has a legitimate injury.
Yeah.
And so they're a bit stuck. Yeah,
they don't have any. Mitch Starc, let's talk about Mitch Starc as well, because he's been the linchpin for Australia in the previous 2 World Cups, had 49 World Cup wickets coming into this one. He got 1 in his, I think, first game, and then in the last game he got
2 at the back end. I think he got 2 at the back end.
2 in the back end.
10th over. He started the 10th over, and we were talking
he was about to go for his first World Cup match without a wicket. Because I think he'd played 20 matches or something like that, and it was his 20th match or 21st match. And he was about to go wicketless until his last over. Ended up getting 2 in that last over. So,
but that's not the Mitch Starc that Australia wants. They want the dominant. They want 2 wickets in the first over.
Yeah, correct. They want wickets up front. And Hazelwood provided it against India. Starc got Ishan Kishan with a pretty awful delivery, wasn't it? A really wide, and he nicked it off to first slip. But yeah, they want wickets up front from Starc. They want to put these guys under pressure. But that allows Zampa to play his role through the middle. And what you see with any spinner, and I'll say it about any side, it doesn't even, whether it's India, whether it's New Zealand, whether it's Australia, whether it's South Africa, if you don't get wickets up front, your spinners become less penetrative in the middle, and they are vulnerable in the middle. So sides that take 2, 3, 4 wickets in that first 15, 20 overs, their spinners are always going to be better off because then the batting side is chasing the game a little bit more. If you're 1 down and you're bringing Zampa on or the spinners on, it's always going to be tougher. So you've got to look at where the state of the game is before you judge the spin through the middle too harshly, I think.
And Mitch Starc has to do it because anyway Sri Lanka plays spin well. So if he hasn't got wickets up front, or Hazelwood hasn't got wickets up front, then Sri Lanka will really milk those middle overs when the spinners come. But Starc likes playing against Sri Lanka, likes getting those wickets. There you see, he got 2 for 29, was very good when they played in Sydney in 2015, and then picked up 4 wickets at the Oval in 2019. So he'll want to add to that number today, and Australia will need him to add to that number, because if Sri Lanka gets away to 275, 280 perhaps, then their bowlers will think they're in the game against an underconfident Australia, because they haven't lost 2 games in a row to begin their World Cup campaign since, like 1894 or something? Some such. Joy, you'll know the exact.
It might be 1992.
1992.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Some such.
Something.
Equally back. I was but a baby
One thing I will say about Stark, I don't think he uses the bouncer enough.
Yeah.
Especially today against Sri Lanka, I don't think he uses the bouncer enough. I'd like to see him just push them back a bit more because you just kind of know with Stark. It's almost like Shaheen. You know that the first 4 or 5 are going to be tossed up and trying to swing in and knock your pads off. I'd love him to start with a bouncer or second ball, just because you know they're going to be lunging forward.
Yeah. Might have it
One
today.
past the nose and perhaps...
Yeah, just see what happens.
Yeah, perfume ball, man.
But you notice how all the top-level swing bowlers are struggling in this tournament.
Yeah.
Shaheen, Stark, even Bolt has not
yeah.
had the start they had that.
Yeah.
So the great era of swing bowling, and perhaps a lot of them are bowling in the daytime, but even in the evening, it's not making that much of a difference.
It's in India. That's what happens when the World Cup is in India. It ain't gonna swing too much, man. All right, I'll tell you what makes a brain swing a little bit is the joy factor question. I've not seen one in a while, so I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
Okay, so this team won their second World Cup match 9 years after their first. They lost 18 in between, upsetting a team that reached the final that year. Name both teams.
Okay, I know this. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what my math is. You know what the dead giveaway there is?
I know. Oh, you've calculated. Well done.
It's the 9 years.
Yeah, you've
So
calculated.
which means it's got to be 83 and 92. Because that was the only time a World Cup happened in an even year. Otherwise, it would always be 8.
Very good, no?
2 marks to team A.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah? That's good, huh? There you go. But the rest you have to do on your own. Okay? Everything brother will not do. Some you also have to do. I'll tell you what brother will do now. Saving energy for the score guess. Because that game is more important than any World Cup game that Simon has played or anyone has ever played any time in history. All right. Dooley, we'll start with you. What is Sri Lanka getting? I've got the number. I know it.
No.
281. I've got it.
you got it?
Sorry. It just bubbled up.
Okay, 281.
Couldn't stop myself.
Okay, I'll go 311.
Ooh, I like it. Go big or
Okay.
go home.
I think the Australian bowlers will get something today. 256.
256, 281, 311.
Nice
Really
spread. It's a nice
Yeah.
spread.
Nice spread. There's 3 completely different matches here. That's great. I like it. All right, well, that's all we have time for. We're going to see you at the end of the, what is it on here? It's 15th, right? For
15th.
I only remember during the IPL it's 10. Yeah, it's 15 and 35.
Correct.
All right, we're going to see you at the end of the 15th over. Thank you for holding my hand through these difficult times during the first English show in the World Cup after many Hindi ones. But I enjoyed it. Did you? Let us know in the comments. Or, I don't know, write it on your wall with a crayon. It doesn't matter. Big thank you to Joy Bhattacharya and Simon Doull. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you. Joy has to attend a few phone calls now. So we're going to let him do that. Get on with this day. I'm Gaurav Kapur. You were watching Cricbuzz Live. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.